Hey guys, so I've just put this little video together. This is a stretch routine that I put together to help with lower back pain or hip issues. Sort of covers both areas. So this is a really nice little routine. Takes about 10 minutes to do. So I'm going to talk you through the whole routine and what we're trying to get out of each stretch. This is a static stretch routine, so best to do this at the end of a workout. So you see I've just grabbed an ab mat there. You could use a cushion if you're doing this at home. So the first one I'm going to do is I'm going to sit on the floor there with my feet pinned up against the wall in like the ideal sort of squat position really. And what I've got is I've got the ab mat there in the lower part of my back, sort of just allowing my back to curve a little bit, and I'm trying to keep my bum and hips down on the floor. So this stretch is going to really help with my hips, which is one of the areas that can pull on your lower back. So I'm in this stretch here. I'm going to do this for 60 seconds. I've also put my hands over my head. You can see that. That's just to add an extra stretch element for my thoracic spine as well, and also my shoulders. You don't have to do that part. You could just have your feet up on the wall. So I'm going to do 60 seconds in this position. I'm really thinking about slowing my breathing down, just trying to relax, control my breath in, control my breath out, and just getting comfortable in this position. So I'm applying a little bit of pressure through my feet as well, just so that I've got good contact with the wall and that I can keep my bum on the mat or the floor. That is important. What I don't want is my bum off the floor. Cool, so we're coming to the end of this one. So I'm going to move away from that stretch now. Next one I'm going to do is I'm just going to move that cushion out of the way. I'm going to do a very similar setup, a little bit closer to the wall. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to target my glutes. So I'm going to bring one leg across. I'm going to rest that leg on the other leg, and I'm going to use my hand to push my knee towards the wall. Just applying a little bit of pressure there just to feel a bit more of a stretch. And this is going to target the glute on the side of the leg I'm pushing on, in this case the right hand side. And I'm going to do this one for 45 seconds on each side. Again, I'm not forcing it, I'm not trying to go into a painful position, I'm just going as far as my body will allow and just sort of relaxing into that position a little bit, applying a little bit of pressure on that knee, not too much, just a little bit. So I'm going to go for 45 seconds here. So once you've done 45 seconds on one side, we'll change. So here I'm changing onto the other leg, and then we'll do 45 seconds on this leg as well. Now, as you can see, I'm a little bit tighter on this side, so I'm struggling to get that knee in quite the same position. That's fine, just go with it. Do what your body can handle. If one side's tighter than the other, don't try and force it into the same position as the other one. Just take it where it will go, and just sort of take a mental note of that. So sort of noticing that my left side's a little bit tighter than my right. So for future reference, I might do a little bit more warm-up work there, or try and do some more single leg work, just to balance that off a little bit. And you'll notice actually the range is improving as the stretch goes on. For the first 10 seconds it was quite tight. As I relaxed into it, breathe in, breathe out, I was just able to get a little bit further into that stretch. And that'll help with balancing them off as well. Cool, so I've done 45 seconds on each side now. Next one I'm going to do is also up against the wall. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to have one foot forward, and then I'm going to put the other foot almost in like a lunge position, but with the other foot resting up against the wall. So I've got the laces of my shoe resting on against the wall, not my toe, the laces. So I'm kind of like, a bit like you kick a football, that part is resting up against the wall. I've got my knee as close to the wall as I can manage, and I'm trying to sit in an upright position. This is going to stretch the muscle leading from the knee to the hip, in particular towards the top end of the quad, the hip flexor area there. If you're not quite as flexible, I find this position quite comfortable, but if you're not as flexible, you probably won't be able to sit upright like that, in which case you might need to lean further forward and possibly even have your hands on the floor, and that's fine. You just go to whatever range you can manage for this one. Also, you don't want this stretch to become a balancing act, so if you feel like you're wobbling or losing balance, as you can see there, put my hands on my knee. The purpose of this is a stretch. It's not a balance exercise. So I felt like I was working too hard on my balance there, so I've just put my hand on my leg for a bit of support so I can really feel the stretch and focus on that. Good, okay, I'm going to change leg now. So 45 seconds on the other side now. Same thing again, so starting in that kneeling position, leaning forward to get my foot up against the wall, and then slowly coming up into that upright position and just getting comfortable. You might find that you can increase your range as the stretch goes on, so you might feel it's a little bit uncomfortable at the start, but as you ease into it, you could sit more upright and just hold that position. So this is really stretching that muscle down from the hip down to the knee. So it's the back leg that's being stretched, not the front one so much. And this is another area that can often cause back pain or back tightness, is actually the hip flexor. The muscle goes from the knee through around the hip and actually attaches down in the lower back area. And that can often be a cause of lower back pain, particularly if you have a seated based job. If you're a desk based job, then this is a great one to do. Cool, I'm going to come out of that now. So the next stretch I'm going to do, I'm going to come away from the wall for this one. So this one is a version of the crucifix stretch, which you sometimes see as a warm-up, but I'm going to do it for a static hold. So the first thing I'm going to do is lie on the floor. I'm going to grab one knee and give it a big hug close to my chest whilst leaving the other leg out. I'm going to hold that for 10 seconds. And this is going to stretch off my hip flexor again. And then what I'm going to do is I'm then going to use one hand and put it across my body whilst looking in the direction of the other arm. So the arm that's not pulling the knee, I'm going to look in that direction. And this is going to stretch off down my glute into my lower back. Now this is actually a tight one for me. You can see my range isn't that good. In an ideal world, you might even get that foot and knee close to the floor. I'm quite a way off the floor there. So this is a tough one for me, but it's a really good one for your glute leading to your lower back. So again, 45 seconds on each side for this one. Controlling your breathing, trying to relax. Ideally, you probably have your head focusing more the direction of the hand, but I'm actually looking up at the clock there while I was doing this one. But yeah, looking towards the hand that's laid out on the floor will get even more of a stretch in the spine there. I'm then going to do the same thing on the other side. So I'm going to give that knee a hug first, pull it into the chest, hold that for about 10 seconds, and then slowly pull it across the body and looking at the opposite hand. Again, can you see how far my foot and knee are off the floor? In an ideal world, you'd be looking to try and get them close to the floor. So this is a tight stretch for me. But some people will quite comfortably find they can get to the floor. So just go to whatever range you can. You might be able to go further than I can in this stretch. You might even be able to not go at that far. You might find even just a little bit of a lean is quite tough. That's fine. Just go to what your body can handle and what feels like a nice stretch rather than a forced stretch. So again, 45 seconds on this side. Again, thinking about my breathing, breathing in, breathing out, trying to relax. Good. Okay, slowly coming out of that one. Next, I'm going to go onto my front now, and I'm going to do a version of the cobra stretch. So this one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be on my hands, and I'm going to drop my hips down to the floor, like a normal cobra position. But then what I'm going to do is I'm going to twist. So I'm going to drop my right hip to the floor and look in the left direction. So this is just going to pull down the lower back area and also sort of twisting the spine. So it just increases that stretch a little bit. Now, I actually probably should be doing this on my elbows. So that's how you would scale this stretch back. But as you can see, with a straight arm, my hip is nowhere near that floor. So I'm probably not doing the right progression. Looking back on it, I would probably go right next time when I do this on my elbows. Because you can see clearly I'm not quite in the right position there. So again, 45 seconds on each side, and do whatever you can feel comfortable with this one. So if you're finding it really tough with a straight arm or feels like a forced stretch, then come onto your elbows. I'm also looking a little bit further over my shoulder than perhaps you would want to. So I'm just trying to get my eyes on the clock over there. I'm trying to see the clock, but I probably would recommend not looking that far over your shoulder. Just sort of looking over to one side. So imagine you're in a room. When you look to the one side, you can look at the left wall, and then you come over to the other side, you can look at the right wall. You're not trying to look behind you as such. So 45 seconds on each side, and this is really going to kind of go all across your back now. So from your lats down the lower spine towards the glutes. And you might even feel this one a little bit in your hips as well. Cool, so 45 seconds of that one, and I'm then going to finish off with one of my favourite stretches. So we're going to go to the child's pose. So this one, I'm going to get my hips back as far as I can. So I'm really going to feel this in my hips and my lower back area. And I'm going to take my hands as far forward as I can with them. So I get a little bit of lats and upper back stretch as well. And I'm just going to relax my head down. So I'm going to hold this one for 60 seconds. It's the last stretch we're going to do here. So I want you to really try and relax now. Try and get that body into a relaxed state. So big breath in. Slow exhale out. Breathe in. Breathe out. And those big breaths in and out are just going to allow you to relax and get really comfortable into this stretch. By the end of the child's pose, you should feel really switched off, really unwound, hips feeling great. This is a really good one to do to help you squat as well. So this will really help loosen off those hips as well as the lower back area. So you can see I adjusted a little bit there. That was mainly just because my cap was pressing into the floor, so I ideally probably should take my hat off for this one to get my head flat on the floor. So you don't necessarily need to copy that. So yeah, if you can, just let your head sink right onto the floor, really targeting the whole body there. And then we're done. So that's the stretch routine, guys. Hopefully that'll alleviate a little bit of back pain and hip tightness. Thanks for watching, guys. Stay tuned.